Surah An-Naba is broken up into thirds. It's actually really, obviously, it's one of the most pleasing surahs to our ears. It rhymes a lot, but also the structure of it is very kind of easy to memorize. Most people, when they're memorizing the Quran, they hit Surah An-Nazi'at and it's a challenge. And then they hit Surah An-Naba and it's ease. And sort of the three main sections of Surah An-Naba, the first section is sort of what Allah often does in the Quran, showing us our indebtedness to Him, right? Because indebtedness is how we move to gratitude. And then once we achieve gratitude, then we have to express it. And that brings us along to worship. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always kind of moving us from feeling indebted to feeling grateful to expressing that gratitude through worship. The second third is about the people of hellfire, and the third and the final third is about the people of paradise. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something very, very important and interesting in the second third of the surah when He's talking about the people who are destined for hell. He says, إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا لَا يَرْجُونَ حِسَابًا, right? That they did not anticipate, or they weren't looking forward to being held to account. وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا كِذَّابًا, right? So, and then they denied and rejected all of the signs that we gave them. So these are two fundamental important things about the Quran and about Islam in general, is that first of all, they weren't anticipating being held into account. And I give these examples all the time. It's like people on the street, you see the speed limit's 55, you're going 80. Why? Because you don't think you're going to be held to account, right? You think the cop is not going to look at you or not going to see you, or maybe, he's off somewhere else, or, you know that he can't be everywhere at once. And so you're going to take your chances, right? You weren't expecting to be held to account. And so you did whatever you wanted. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the main fundamental things that He hammers over and over and over again in the Quran is that you are going to be held to account. All these other sorts of so-called religions or so-called faiths that have other sorts of things in the afterlife, either reincarnation or some other sort of schema that's entirely separate from hisab, that's separate from being held to account. It leaves you with a very weak moral framework. If you're not going to be held to account with certainty, 100% certainty, by a perfect creator, an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-able creator, then people are going to do whatever they want. They'll take their chances. No, it's like, I'm going to get reincarnated. Okay, well, I'll take my chances, and maybe next life I'll do better. No, this is finality, right? This is finality. Like, this life is going to end, and you're going to be held into account, and the one who's holding you to account is perfect and able and completely knowledgeable. Then you have to straighten up. You have to do the bare minimum. And yes, we would all like to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of love and not out of fear, but regrettably, there's a lot of people in the world that need the fear, because if they didn't have that fear, if they didn't know that the account was coming, they wouldn't do anything right? Or they would transgress the bounds, they would oppress people, they would take their rights, they would harm, spread corruption on earth. Okay, so one of the most fundamental things is that there is accountability. The afterlife is essential to that accountability. You can't have true accountability without a perfect creator holding you to account with finality in the afterlife.